Hello and welcome to another video review from the Awesome Update. My name is Ben, aka Blacksmith, and today I'm going to be looking at the first expansion for Blizzard's Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. Reaper of Souls, much like the popular expansion to Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction, introduces a fifth act to the game, as well as a single new class, the Crusader. It also adds the new adventuring mode that allows free travel between all acts, as well as unlocking Bounties and Nepahelm Rifts, both of which give bonus loot, experience, and new gambling currency, blood shards. Finally, the expansion serves as a major overhaul on numerous key mechanics within the game, which were introduced in patch 2.0 shortly before release. To start with, let's take a look at the new act. It sees you face off against the former Archangel of Wisdom and leader of the Angerish Council, Nepahelm, who has fallen to darkness and seeks to wipe out humanity and their part demonic heritage in order to end the eternal conflict. To do so, he's stolen the Black Soulstone that contains the essences of the Seven Evils and unleashed his fallen angels upon the city of Westmarch. Your hero makes his way there and begins to do what they do best, slay evil with blood-splattering panache. The journey sees you liberate Westmarch, hunt the blood marshes for revenge, and technically information, but mostly revenge, against the witch Adria, and even journey to Pandemonium Fortress for the first time since Diablo 2's fourth act. Overall, the act is well thought out, engaging and fresh, with some truly gorgeous landscapes that really recapture that dark, dreary and dreadful atmosphere of the previous two main games. The story is still very linear, but Nepahelm and his fallen angels are great villains, certainly better realised than the exposition-spouting Bond villain portrayals of Azmodan and Diablo in Acts 3 and 4, and overall it's a very satisfying plot. Special mention to the companion side plots here, as further to their conversation narratives in Acts 1 through 4, Act 5 actually ends up giving you specific dungeons and events related to the companions that tell their story. What happened to Irina's sisters? How will Cormac deal with the unearthed corruption in the Templar Order? Will Lyndon find his brother? And is Shen a god or just a crazy old man? If you're a fan of their side plots, I highly recommend following them through. Once you've completed Act 5 on one character, Adventuring Mode is unlocked for all characters. This new mode has no story quests, and you are, finally, free to teleport between acts without having to create a new game. Bounties become available in each act, and completing them awards bonus experience, gold, and new currencies, blood shards and rift key fragments. More on them in a minute. There are 5 bounties per act, and they require you to fulfill certain criteria in randomly chosen zones. These range from slaying a specific champion, to completely clearing out a certain dungeon, to completing a certain event, to defeating a certain boss, of which there is always one bounty per act per game. They serve as a really nice way to keep things fresh, avoiding the need for repeated runs of the same dungeon or same boss over and over and over and over again, and with the ability to teleport to any waypoint from anywhere in the world, the pacing is fast and fresh, assuming, of course, you are at an appropriate difficulty level for your gear. Rift key fragments, one of the currencies you receive for completing bounties, are used to open Nepahelm Rifts in any Act's hub town. These rifts take the player to a series of randomly generated dungeons taken from all tile sets in-game, and are filled with a random selection of monsters from all acts. You could find yourself slaying Khazra in Pandemonium Fortress 1 minute, then battling fallen angels in the desert the next. After a certain number of mobs are killed, represented by a 0 to 100% progress bar, a random boss spawns who, once defeated, completes the Rift challenge. Similar to bounties, rifts award bonus experience, gold and blood shards, as well as a Horadric cache that showers you with bonus loot and gems. There's even the chance of a legendary. Like bounties, rifts are fast-paced action that serves as another great way to keep things fresh and varied, and I'm certain the two will become the main farming method for most players. A quick note on blood shards, as there isn't much to cover here. These are a new currency that can be exchanged with a new vendor, the daughter of Geed no less, for random pieces of gear a la Diablo 2's gambling system. Whether you are a lover or hater of that old system, this one should be palatable, as it functions essentially as a bonus loot system rather than an annoying gold sink. As I said earlier, one of the things this expansion does is overhaul a lot of core mechanics, and the most notable of those is the changes to the loot system, dubbed Loot 2.0. Itemization has been streamlined, and before you freak out and think this is a Blizzard dumbing down move for casuals, just hear me out, so that stats are now separated into primary and secondary affixes, with standard 6 affix items rolling 4 primary and 2 secondary. Only legendaries can bypass this. This actually serves to bring a lot more variation into itemization, as beforehand everyone was looking for the exact same thing. Their main stat, vitality, all resistance, crit chance, crit damage and attack speed, with a touch of lifesteal here or there. Now you have to choose which of those primary stats to prioritise and how to spread them, whilst also taking advantage of the formerly ignored secondary stats, which include everything from specific resistances to bonus experience to golden health pickup radius, and everything in between. Loot drop chances have been majorly overhauled as well, with them tuned to take account of the permanent shutdown of both the gold and real money auction houses, such that you're likely to find a legendary or four every standard evening session. Of course, that doesn't mean it's going to be the legendary you want, or that it will roll the stats you want, but it's refreshing and nice to see the glowing orange pillar of light relatively frequently, and it absolutely recaptures that loot hunting feel that was missing pre-expansion. Finally, the legendaries themselves have been redesigned with a lot of them having unique affixes that can completely change up the way you play your character. Anything from gloves with a damage absorb shield that triggers whenever a certain amount of mobs are in range, to Templar tokens that prevent Cormac from ever dying, to braces that cause a champion pack to spawn every time you activate a shrine. There are an endless, well, not endless, but you get the picture, possibilities both in terms of item and skill build combinations, such that the days of only ever seeing barbs run either double tornado or Hota builds, or every wizard being a critical mass spanner, should be well and truly over. Don't get me wrong, there will always be similar themes and some cookie cutter specs, but the detail and diversity should be much greater now, and indeed, with my experiences of public games in 2.0, this seems to be the case. To wrap things up, I'm going to talk about the new class, the Crusader. First off, in typical Blizzard fashion, the class is currently arguably overpowered, but again in typical Blizzard fashion, I reckon they'll address that soon enough. Secondly, the class is hella fun. It's essentially a blending of the Paladin classes from both Diablo 2 and World of Warcraft, with fan favourites like Blessed Hammer, Fist of the Heavens, and Consecration all thrown in the mix. I, like others, was a little disappointed not to see two new classes like we did with Lord of the Destruction, but after playing around with the character, I'm actually glad they took the time to work on this one alone. He's probably going to become my main secondary character, ahead of my Witch Doctor, but behind my Barbarian, of course. Nobody knocks the Barbarian off top spot. I think I've talked for quite long enough now, so I'm going to wrap this review up by saying that Reaper of Souls is an absolute godsend, particularly for those that felt Diablo 3 lacked that X factor that made Diablo 2 so iconic and amazing. The changes to the loot system, the new hack, the addition of Bounties and Rifts, and the new Crusader class all breathe fresh life into what was a pretty stale game, and I heartily recommend everyone who is interested in the Diablo franchise to try it out. Even if you hated it pre-expansion, I think this expansion has an excellent chance of changing your mind. My final score for Reaper of Souls is 9 out of 10. It is awesome. As always, don't forget to check out our full website at theawesomeupdate.co.uk. Find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching for The Awesome Update, and please let us know what you thought of this video and of Reaper of Souls itself in the comments below. Until next time, this has been Ben, aka Blacksmith, and you've been watching The Awesome Update.
Awesome.